Hello, this is Carmen with the Singer Featherweight Shop. I want to talk to you about the foot controller for the Featherweight, how it works, and also what to do if it gets out of adjustment. Basically, you have two wires that come in to the controller here, and the electricity goes into one side and out to the other side and onto your machine. How this happens is this is actually called a carbon resistor or a carbon pile, a carbon stack foot controller. This little disc right here laying on top, this is one of these discs that go along this side here, and this is a cutaway view of this foot controller. Yours doesn't look like this. It has ceramic all the way around, but it has all these discs in here, these carbon discs, and so the electricity is coming in from one side and it's going through all of these discs. It's resisting, it's going through these discs, and it meets a little connecting bar out here on the end, goes around and out the other side. So what happens is when the foot controller is depressed, you can see here that it starts to make a connection here, and the more you push, the more it compresses those discs, and the more electricity it lets through and onto your machine, and that's how it regulates its speed. So a properly adjusted foot controller, this bar here on the end is somewhere around 1/8 of an inch inside this ceramic or porcelain housing here. And when it's adjusted that way, you can see that there is a gap here. And so when the controller is not in use, no electricity is flowing through it. But if it gets out of adjustment and this gets farther in, or even this bar gets bent or the spring gets weak over time, and then once it connects, there's a little bit of electricity that's going through. Probably not enough to power your machine, but yet still enough that your controller may get hot, and so hot that it could actually burn right down through the carpet and potentially start a fire. Now, of course, if you're going to make any adjustments to this foot controller, please unplug it first. That would just be smart for safety's sake. But anyway, once you unplug it, you can make some adjustments. And most of the adjustment is made from this screw here. Let's move these wires out of the way. This screw here on the end. If you turn it in, you're going to be moving the plate farther in, and it can get out of adjustment that way. But it can also, and what the more common way is that it gets out of adjustment to where it's all the way backed out here. And once it gets all the way backed out really far past the end of the porcelain, which is what happens usually, well then when you depress the foot controller, it goes in a long ways and it's not getting any power yet, and so you've got it almost all the way down before it starts to make power. And this is where the second part of this foot controller happens. Once you step all the way down on the foot controller, the electricity is no longer going through the resistor, but it's going straight across right here from these two copper tabs. It's going from one side to the other side, and then your machine is basically getting full power at that point. So what happens, your controller is out of adjustment, you depress it here, nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens. You get all the way down here to the end, and now you've got full power. That's why it's pretty common if you got a foot controller that seems like it goes from straight from 0 to 60 with no in-between speed. And so by adjusting this and turning it in until you get to about the 1/8 of an inch point, that will give you some intermediate speed where it starts slowly and then builds up gradually. Then when you depress it all the way, you've got full speed, 100% speed at that point, or power. Now, one of the reasons that it's recommended that you always unplug this controller when it's not in use is because if this was out of adjustment, it's going to start building up heat, because it's going to start generating or letting a little bit of the electricity through, and it builds up in the form of heat in the controller. The other thing is if you walked away from your machine and let's say a pet knocked over a plant or something onto your controller just enough that it would either run your machine until it got hot, or enough that it depressed this to where it started letting a little electricity through and generating a significant amount of heat. So put your controller on a power strip where you can easily turn it off or actually unplug it each time. One final thing I should let you know about is when you adjust this controller and you've got it adjusted to where it's 1/8 of an inch inside the end of the porcelain, and I'm talking about this right here. You can see about 1/8 of an inch of porcelain. I'll turn it so you can see right there. Then at that point in time, this nut right here usually gets loose, and that's the reason that it gets out of adjustment in the first place. So this nut at that point in time, you need to take like some needle nose pliers. Of course, this is all with your machine unplugged, with your controller unplugged. Tighten it. I've often heard recommendations of, putting a drop of super glue right there once you're happy with the adjustment, maybe some of the lightweight, light blue thread locker or something right there to keep it from backing off again. And then your controller should be working properly again. So I hope that helps. And let us know. You can email us or call us here in the shop if you have any questions.